2005's Thank You for Smoking is a 90-minute comedy satire with a lot to say, starring Aaron Eckhart, Maria Bello, Sam Elliott, Katie Holmes, Rob Lowe, William H. Macy, J.K. Simmons, Robert Duvall, the list goes on, and written and directed by Jason Reitman, director of the recent Ghostbusters Afterlife and son of Ivan Reitman, director of the original Ghostbusters. The film focuses on big tobacco lobbyist Nick Naylor, the proclaimed Sultan of Spin, and his clashes with activists, self-centered journalists, the original Marlboro Man, and a crusading anti-smoking senator from the great state of Vermont. The film has gained quite a bit of acclaim since its release, but is it required viewing? We've mentioned this film a couple of times on the show before, and we actually, for this, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, we're breaking a rule and covering a film outside of our 20-year window. But
we're showing a movie that we're giving thanks for having existed? I don't know, I'm reaching here. It says thank you in the title. What more do you need?
It says thank you, and I'm a big fan of smoked turkey, so it works very well.
Thank you for smoking the turkey. There you go.
Except this film is not a turkey. It's quite the opposite. This is one of those films where we cannot cover it in full to the way that I would appreciate covering in about 30 minutes. I mean, this is a film that criticizes not only big tobacco, but lobbyism, activists, or as the film calls them, traffickers in human misery, censorship, environmentalists, big pharma, political hypocrisy and campaign contributions, media corruption, Americanism, education and parental responsibility, and focuses on the theme of liberty or freedom of choice versus health mandates. Maybe this film might still be a little bit relevant.
No, but it's not intelligent. I feel like it tackles topics that would be relevant even another 20 years from now. Now I know we're breaking rules on it, but hey, like if there was one in our library, Demos, where rules were broken, I'm very happy that it was this one here with Thank You for Smoking, a very underappreciated movie. And I'll tell you what, you mentioned what you did, not having enough time. We could literally do a Thank You for Smoking series, breaking down individual scenes.
There's even much to say about the film's quiet exploration of how propaganda has evolved in film and television throughout the generations. But I don't have hours to talk about this.
No.
How the heck is this film going to cover so many ideas efficiently in 90 minutes? Now, I've always said 90 minutes is the perfect mark for a comedy, but all these ideas do filter through what I said, that particular theme of liberty and freedom of choice versus mandate. And it's something that echoes throughout the various subjects that it explores. And it does so, I dare say it does so fairly. It criticizes both sides of the aisle.
Correct. Very, very legitimate point by you. There's so much done well in this movie, right? So first of all, I'm just going to start with who I think is, there's two people who aren't air quote stars in this movie, but make the thing shine like the sun, okay? You could light your cigarette off the sun in question. There you go, okay? One of them being J.K. Simmons, of course, is BR, and the other, of course, is Senator Finister and William H. Macy. Both of these guys have to do their roles just so, or this movie is just another boring movie. But BR, doing what he does the way he does it. There's one part in the movie where it says,
"This guy is the entertainment business."
And you are cigarettes, BR.
Whatever.
A throwaway line, but very telling you, hey, if you dummies can't get the satire, this is what we're telling you it is, okay? And of course, how much hint do you need to know about the silliness of a senator by just watching William H. Macy doing his amazing stuff? I know we'll get to something that I think we've even pointed out on other episodes involving Senator Finister later in this particular episode. But listen, the very first scene where he's on a screen and he's dressing down Ron Goody after getting blitzed by Nick Naylor on the Joe London show, which, by the way, I'm kind of shocked the Joe London show wasn't a thing in the 90s, okay? I'm just going to call that out right there.
When you're there, you're not Ron Goody, the guy your friends probably like. You're Senator Finister's aide.
Just so much greatness from both of them.
Well, there's a lot of good use of subtle humor in this. I mean, one of the items of humor that was very much publicized later on, but the astute person watching it might catch the first time, is that no one smokes in the whole film. In a film called Thank You for Smoking, the one film that would have an excuse.
The closest anyone gets to striking a cigarette lit is Aaron Eckhart looking inside a box of cigarettes when he was inspired to smoke one while watching a war movie where somebody's like, how about a cigarette, and everyone gets shot.
Matter of fact, I never felt so good in my life. Not a cigarette.
That somebody is John Wayne, my friend.
Correct. And by the way, yet another big name in this movie, right? But posthumously, of course. The fact that this scene is the stimulus for Nick Naylor to eventually get the idea to suggest to BR about trying to get stars to smoke on screen, et cetera, and do all that. There's a lot of good stuff going on there, Demosthenes.
Which leads to that exploration of product placement in film. One of my big highlights in the film is...
You know who Lorne Lutch is?
Yeah, of course. He's the original Marlboro Man. He's dying.
Well, the money's for him.
He's a cowboy, sir, and cowboys don't like bribes.
No, it's not a bribe. No, sir.
The whole exchange between this city slicker and this cowboy, and the way the Marlboro Man is locked in, and he goes from noble piece of Americana to desperate man trying to care for his family. Oof. Fantastically done in all the subtle things. They show a shot of the backseat of the car where the briefcase once was, and the way you know Nick Naylor 1 is on that same car, in that same place. There's a shot when they're driving out, and that briefcase is missing. Adding to that subtlety of, oh yes, Nick Naylor is that guy, folks.
Well, that scene is the focal point of the film, I would say, where all the major themes come together in perfect harmony. They set it up with the entire idea of an argument versus a negotiation, which is exactly how this plays out. Mm-hmm. They set up the idea of doing what you can to pay the mortgage. And it sets up the big question for Nick Naylor as a character that leads towards the end of the film. Is he going to accept the money, which is a smart thing to do, or is he going to take the more dangerous stance on ethics?
Well, and that's the question too being posed, right? It's more dangerous to him, but it deals a bigger blow against the smoking and tobacco industry that put him where he's supposed to be. But then again, if Big Tobacco in the Academy of American Tobacco Studies doesn't happen, do we have the Senator Finisters of the world, who you come to see aren't exactly as upfront as one would have you believe?
The thing that I really like about that scene is that it literally puts the audience in the seat of the Marlboro Man. It starts off, you're seeing the two characters one-up each other in conversation, etc. Nick Naylor is sitting back, he's taking stock of the situation, and then he puts on his performance. He picks up the briefcase, he dumps it all on the floor. He explains, this is what you should do. He plays the role of devil's advocate in a way, and
even stronger than that, Demos.
Yeah.
He's playing the role of Good Samaritan.
That's the point. You never see the devil coming.
Correct.
It comes down to that question. And from that performance, I think that most people would easily say, oh, no, I would stand up for my ethics. But when you're watching that scene, you question yourself. It puts you in the headspace of this Marlboro Man disease-free. The execution is utterly brilliant in the setup of this ethical conundrum.
One could say, Demos, that it asks the question, will you eat the bar, or will you let the bar eat you?
Another particular highlight I enjoy, again, early on, and I think this film, one of the smartest things that it does is to take this character named Nick Naylor, and humanize him through the device of his son. Even more so, it sets up a perfect organic way to get that inner character exposition out through the device of his son, leading to what I think is one of the stronger scenes, the vanilla versus chocolate ice cream debate.
Oh, such a great conversation.
You didn't prove that vanilla's the best.
I didn't have to. I proved that you're wrong. And if you're wrong, I'm right.
But you still didn't convince me.
It's that I'm not after you. I'm after them.
I think it's a great lesson to be taught, not just to a kid, but to adults, that the world that they live in, be it whether you want to call it lobbyism or politics or anything, or even apply to the corporate world, the concept that you can never be wrong if you argue and frame an argument a particular way is absolutely genius and really needs to be taught to more people. And it's not even necessarily used just as a weapon of evil, as is implied the way that Nick Naylor uses it. I think it's something that could be used as a positive all around. You know, if you frame stuff just right, maybe anything can exactly be done. There doesn't have to be a right or wrong, but rather just explorations. But also that can be incredibly dangerous.
I love that when it explores such topics, it does so in entertaining, but eye-opening way.
Exactly. I think we have something very similar on this show when I explain constantly that Major League actually is a recommended film and you blew it. I'm not after you. I'm after the viewers of Hilarity by Default to know how wrong you are.
Well, son of a bitch, I just lost this argument. I'm still recommending the film. How am I wrong? How am I wrong?
It's all in the framing. Boom. So teacheth the lesson.
The Joan London interview it's a perfect scene to really open the film as a character study. He's set up to fail in the worst way.
What's the main way Nick Naylor asserts himself there? Controlling the narrative. An actual lesson and things that happen in real life, and something that people have even learned to do now in the court of public opinion on Twitter, for Christ's sake. So, and social media in general, I should say.
He controls the narrative and shifts the argument so that he is the one that's in the right, as exemplified by that vanilla versus chocolate ice cream debate.
Boom.
The ending, I like the fact that it addresses the nature of what we focus on as far as a health risk.
The great state of Vermont will not apologize for its cheese.
Cheese, which leads to cholesterol and heart disease being the major death of Americans.
Leading.
That
cause of death, right?
Versus cigarette deaths. And it leads to the question of education and personal responsibility versus mandates and government overreach.
It's called education. It doesn't come off the side of a cigarette carton. It comes from our teachers, and more importantly, our parents.
Maybe this argument might seem a little on the nose in retrospect, but when you look at this film and you see how many things that it predicted that have come true, it makes you pay attention to a lot of the questions that it raised in the first place. For instance, the poison symbol on packs of cigarettes actually became a reality later in countries like Australia and Canada, where if you buy a pack of cigarettes, you see graphic pictures of diseased lungs and people with teeth falling out, and it's exactly what they did. And guess what? People still smoking. I bet you that most smokers that still smoke them actually look at that and they laugh. You know, there's a reason that bikers wear skulls, right?
Are you trying to say that these regulations actually gave smokers street cred?
Well, there have been studies that have shown that anti-smoking commercials actually make smokers want to smoke. You know, we love film. We talk about film all the time. And so when they get to the section at the end, which is it is an afterthought, but I'd also even argue it's a culmination of everything the film is leading up to. The scene where it's the epilogue of the film, where it shows where the characters are later, and William H. Macy is now fighting for censorship, specifically censorship of old films to delete smoking.
But in essence, aren't you changing history?
No, I think we're improving history.
Oh yeah, improve history by hiding history. That sounds like a good idea.
Demos, I think you do it a great disservice. Maybe it is an afterthought, but it asks a great question of activists. It actually lists the concept or poses the question in the minds of many. Hey, listen, when you finally win or achieve what you're trying to, then what? Because if you're a professional activist and you achieve your goal, what's left for you?
Well, the thing, and that's been a criticism of some of the more scrupulous charities out there, is that a charity's main goal is to not exist. The question comes to the censorship of film to improve history. Well, that's one we've been seeing quite a bit lately. Disney Plus contains a plethora of examples of this. Of course, the CGI fur on Daryl Hannah's butt, because God forbid we see that for a couple of seconds. Censorship of Toy Story 2, the entire elimination of Song of the South, which we've already talked to. Hell, I kind of wish they did a sequel focusing on this topic called Thank You for Watching. This has been mocked, and even recently at Red Letter Media, one of the guys said that he hates the phrase, "This film is more relevant today than it was when it came out." This film is, I would say, is just as relevant today as it was back then. Yeah. This is a satire, serves as a warning beacon, and I think that this film it struck a lot of warning beacons.
You know, one could easily deduce that smoking is the focus, but as you come to find out here, Demosthenes, to your point, smoking is the backdrop. Smoking is the case study for the BS that exists in all of these broader topics. It's not a matter of fact. I love the way you put it. It's not that it's more relevant now, it's that it never stopped being relevant. Of course it's required, and if you don't say it's required, Demosthenes, you might even be more wrong than you are with Major League, okay? This movie does so much, captures so many topics, and it does so, like, the having seen this movie more than once, I pick up more and more things because of that. There were things that are in here that I didn't catch the first time around. Whether it's something in the plot points that we're talking about, in how in this latest watch of this movie, I've actually started to form my question in my head, the question of, did this advocacy against the tobacco industry turn it into the entity it is? Or in their desperate attempt to defend themselves, the tobacco company, did they create the crazy advocate who is now burgeoning themselves into other avenues to improve history or other parts of our life?
I think that the cigarette companies kind of did it to themselves when they started running ads talking about how doctors kept recommending their product. You know, Correct. They poked the bear with that one.
And in doing so now, these advocates are so powerful, and the culture of advocacy is such a thing now. They have resources and ideology to attack other things that maybe shouldn't be attacked. You know, that's something I got just from this past watching. And I've gotten so many other things from other watchings of this movie. Then there's all the little things in there. Entertainment global offices. Ego. Being the head of film stuff. That's amazing. Listen, the Kingston Trio's Greenback Dollar is a great choice at the end. And the song choice to open the movie is fantastic and hilarious in its own right. It sets the tone that the topic is, yeah, I hate people that walk away with a cigarette and to smoke a cigarette at the worst time too. Man, this song's catchy and funny. And that's basically the tone of the whole bleeping movie.
Does Greenback Dollars actually suggest that he took the money at the end in his own way?
I think Greenback Dollar suggests that Nick Naylor's doing what he's good at, talking, or in his case, having his bottle of brandy in the song. Whoever takes it, be it tobacco or the cell phone companies, you're getting somebody who's just going for a wailing song and a good guitar, the only way that he can understand.
One of the best aspects of Thank You for Smoking is the unabashed bluntness of its takes. Yes,
despite the subtlety, it's unabashed and blunt. I love it.
There's a wide spectrum of criticism hitting both sides of the aisle, but it takes a strong, bold stance on personal liberty and freedom of choice, while expertly mocking those that try to thrust and impose their own ideologies above you. Take William H. Macy's character, for instance. On the surface, his views appear in purity as a benefit to society. Curb smoking to improve national health. Check. Restructure history education to promote good, modern ideas versus outdated ideas. Check. Yet, it is the implementation and execution of these ideas as mandates that evolves into a form of authoritarianism. It is this elite arrogance that one's ideology is above the uninformed mass and should therefore be treated as the ultimate doctrine at the expense of introspection and argument that serves as a real danger. We mentioned it before. The film expertly displays the slippery slope of such actions and how the acceptance of something as simple as a graphic warning label for public good could lead to censorship and evisceration of freedom.
I'm hoping to improve history, Demosthenes.
Which always that terrifies me. That line is George Orwell's 1984 in a sentence.
I'm terrified beyond the capacity for rational thought.
What may have appeared at the time as a brash social commentary raises the question as to how acceptable this film would be today. I highly recommend making a good choice and checking it out. And without fear of hypocrisy, given the debate of such mandates, I would implore that Thank You for Smoking is required viewing.
You're damn right.
I'd see that movie.
I'd buy the DVD.
Well, join us next month as we delve into the Christmas season. Yes, Kyle, Merry Christmas. We're finally going to talk about Christmas Vacation. We've been leading up to it. And for our Christmas special, we're going to take an eye-opening look at Eyes Wide Shut. If Die Hard can be a Christmas film, this Kubrick film can be a Christmas film. I'd argue it's more of a Christmas film than Die Hard because there's a Christmas tree in every scene of the film. That's all you need.
We'll find out. I haven't seen that movie, so we'll find out.
Oh boy, you're in for something. You're in for something.
I'm going to be exposed to Christmas. That's what I'll say.